So chakras, I'm so happy that you're here in this class because I was just actually writing about this part in about meditation, that most people understand that we have our physical body, right? You can pick it up kind of, or someone could, and we also get that part of our physical body that we know as our physical body is our mind, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions. How we can, how like you can watch a movie, because your mind's involved in watching it, you can have feelings because of the movie. Have you ever had that like heart racing feeling or cried in a movie? So we've had those experiences that because of what's been projected on the mind, right? But this teaching in yoga is that that's what's happening all the time. We have feelings and emotions because of what's being projected on the mind all of the time. In fact, you could think of it kind of like a maze, and that this happens because of our senses, because we're taking in the world via our senses. And that's why in yoga we're actually we're wanting to experience a state of oneness, and oneness cannot be kind of felt in the physical body, because we're taking, or in the mind, because the mind is constantly like seeing things in relativity, like I'm here, you're there, in relative terms, like is it hot, is it cold, is it soft or is it loud? We're constantly taking in the world in that way. And obviously that we need to do that to survive. We need to be able to see that car's there when we're in our car, right? It just reminds me of that great TED talk, if you've ever seen it, by Jill Bolt Taylor. Have you seen it? She's a neuro scientist, and she actually had a stroke where one hemisphere of the brain was affected, the left side of the brain. And what ended up happening was that she had an experience of like nirvana, she called, like a samadhi. She had a oneness where she couldn't even see the phone as separate to her to call for help. So you see why we need to be able to have our senses. Yet if we to have this wonderful samadhi state, we need to go beyond the brain, beyond the mind, beyond our thoughts, beyond our feelings. And that's not what the mind wants to do, because the mind always wants us to be in the thoughts. Do you get me? So that's why. So I feel like, have I explained that well enough? Right? We get that aspect. I feel like we also get that we have soul. Like there's something in us that when, I don't know, maybe you feel this way, I feel like we do, is that when you hear about samadhi, or you hear about oneness, or you hear about, like, there's something in us that goes, yeah, like we understand somewhere about our spirit, our what's called in yoga the karana sharira, your causal body, the you that is you, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, no matter how you change. Some of us are a bit older than some of you guys, but don't we feel the same as when we're in that age, right? We still feel the same, right? You can still, even when you're not like a grandma, even at your age, you can think of when you're a little kid and you're still the same, right? But obviously you're not, right? But you are. But see what I mean? That's physical body has changed. Soul hasn't changed. And that is, that's always the way. So I feel like, yeah, we get those two aspects. Do you reckon? But then what the yogis understand is that you can actually start to bring that soul space into the physical, because we have this, what's in between, called the subtle body. That's called sukshma sharira. That's the name of it. So this subtle body, that's where the chakras are. That's why it's so great that you're here, because it actually helps you to be able to enjoy your life more. And the power that comes when, we'll give you an example. We all know what inspiration is, right? We've all felt inspired at some point in our lives. Do we feel inspired every minute? Probably not, right? Have you ever tried to make yourself inspired? Like, say if you've got to study, have you ever like, right, oh yeah, I'm so inspired to study. You know, like it doesn't, you can't make it happen. It just comes to you. So just to know that insight, intuition, inspiration, none of that can be made by the mind. It only can come to us. And I feel like we'd all probably like to be more insightful, more intuitive, more inspired, right? Probably. And that's what yoga gives us. And the paradox is that the way we are given it is by surrendering and by quietening the mind. And so that's what's really just so wonderful to learn about the chakras, because this subtle body you can access, you can get to it. There are specific processes and practices and techniques to help you with it. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. So we'll practice today. So meditation, just to like cut my long story short, is that meditation is the answer. It's the process, it's the way of doing it, okay? And that there are actually stages of meditation, and it's far more than just mindfulness. So let us begin, shall we? Let's just close your eyes. And then just see how it feels to let your senses come in. So although you may hear sounds around you, see if you can just kind of like not hold on to those sounds. Let your senses, let your sense of sound come in. And you know, a simple way of doing that is to begin by just listening to the sound of your own breath, which, because you've been sitting here for a while, will probably be pretty quiet. Can you perhaps even hear the sound of your heart beating? Can you hear any other internal sounds? When you're ready, we'll bring your palms together in Anjali Mudra. This beautiful hand position with your palms touching together is a way of being able to bring your awareness in, to go beyond duality, which you can kind of imagine it's kind of symbolized by right and left, that sort of egocentric way. Because when you think about it, like, my right is your left. So there's always going to be creating a separation between us when we think in that way. So just feel this oneness, your two hands one. Imagine, just behind your closed eyes, let your gaze come down as if you're looking into the center of your chest, inwards from where your hands are touching. You can just hold your gaze here for a while into your chest. Some people find this really easy, and some of us find our eyes are like little darting, dart up, dart down, dart to the side. That's all right. Just keep, just gently, just very tenderly, as delicately as like you would look after a little baby. Just gently let the gaze start to rest down to the heart center. Just behind your closed eyes, your eyelids resting, your gaze just down to the center of your chest. Set your intention. We'll join together for one Om. Om. Then when you're ready, we're going to come into Tarasana. I'm trapped, I can't move my voice. So we're going to bring the soles of your feet together. Have like a bit away from your bottom. And then you may actually prefer to just sit at a wall, with your back at the wall. If it's fine, you could start to maybe come forward. You could have your bolster high. Maybe it's comfy for you to like go a little bit more forwards and let your hands kind of be supported by the bolster. Some people find this pretty easy to bring the arms underneath and bring your head down, but I'd love you to do this in a way that's really comfortable for you. So that you can just start to kind of rest into the feeling of the back of your chest, because I thought let's like focus on the heart chakra today. The heart chakra, the yogis recognize that like the location of your heart in the chest. It's not like the physical heart, which is a little bit to the left, but right into the center of your chest. That it's referred to as the fulcrum between the lower three chakras and the higher three chakras. So the lower three chakras are to do with our survival in life, which obviously we need to do. But the thing is that for us to have that inspired, transcendent, that insightfulness that I was talking to you about before, we need to also have a balance with the higher three chakras, which relate to our connection to spirit, or infinite consciousness, or divine being, or whatever you want to call it, but it's actually beyond words. So I'm just like trying to say words that can approximate. And so I think we all kind of get the understanding about the heart chakra relating to our emotions. You know how people say things like brokenhearted. Obviously, I don't want you to feel brokenhearted. Our practice is to help you to bring a beautiful healing understanding of the truth, of the beauty of you. The heart chakra, it relates to the element of air, which you can kind of understand because it's a location like the chest area from the rib cage up to where the collarbones are. It's where your lungs are. So, it's also even where the diaphragm is connected to, the thoracic diaphragm. So can you let yourself really just kind of rest on your breath for a little while? Almost like you're kind of just floating on your breath. Perhaps you can feel how the back of your chest, between the ribs, kind of expand outwards as you breathe in. You draw back to center as you breathe out. I'm just going to be here for about another 3 breaths or so, maybe 5. Can you just really let yourself feel those breaths? Just allowing the breath to be complete. And when you're ready, we'll just gradually start to come up, and we'll bring your bolster around sideways on your mat, and then you might like to just grab your blanket and kind of fold it up and bring that so that it's going to come underneath your neck to your shoulder. So let's bring the right ribs onto the bolster. So the right ribs are on the bolster, the blanket or your pillows under your head all the way to where your shoulder is. And then your left arm, you could have that overhead, if you like, to hold on to the wrist. And what we're doing this for is to kind of open down the side ribs. So if you feel like the bolster is too low, if you're feeling it more in your lower back, just kind of move the bolster up a bit if you feel it in the lower back. You could also bring your knees more in towards your chest if you're feeling it in the lower back. We kind of just want to release through the top ribs, which, you know, you have what are called intercostal muscles here, and you kind of release there. You can maybe even feel how it's easy to breathe in. Like your breath in can kind of last a little longer without trying. Let yourself just rest here. The heart chakra has it's referred to as a background color of green. I think of it like a soft green, like when you have plant and it grows a new leaf. It's like a really soft, gentle color. Can you imagine that gentle, soft green color in the area of your chest? Like a mist. Can you imagine that like a healing mist that's kind of spreading this gorgeous, soft green through the rib cage? Through your whole chest. Just for about another 3 breaths or so. With each breath, can you kind of imagine that soft, gentle green color spreading when you're ready? We'll just press your top hand down to help you to push upwards, and then we'll change over to the other side. So just switch around, bring the left ribs onto the bolster. Again, just make sure that it's comfy in your lower back. This is a restorative pose, and I think that restorative yoga is so incredibly healing for us, because it's kind of like antithetical to a lot of what we've been taught in life, which is go, 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 go. And as if rest is a reward, not actually a necessity, but it's a necessity. So we're kind of fucked if we don't get enough rest. It's a problem. Like you can just rest in your breath. You know, and I was talking to you about what are called the three shariras, the physical body, the subtle body, and the soul space. Your breath is in the physical body, and it can take you into the subtle body. When I say it can, that's because most of the time we're just unconscious of our breath, because we're just in the maze of the mind. And so you're just aware of the breath. Can you imagine that gentle, soft green color, like a gentle healing mist spreading through the ribs, in the chest. For a couple more breaths here. Just when you're ready, we'll slowly come up. And then what we'll come into is just for a moment a little wrist release, because the whole area of your chest and your arms, this physical part of your body relates to the heart chakra. So let's just bring the fingers to face towards your knees. And the more that you kind of sit back, the more you're going to start to feel it. If it's too much, just bring your hands a bit more forwards and just gently come back. If it's really easy, you might like to bring your fingers closer to your knees. So it's to feel it into your wrist a little bit. Do you feel that? Yeah. Often we feel it in one wrist more than the other. Is that true? Probably because we're like either right-handed or left-handed. We're always going to have a dominant side. But you know, that's in terms of yoga. So let's just sit back. If you're comfy to sit back onto your heels, we're going to bring your hands into your armpits, so like little wings, and we're going to just let your hands, your elbows drop down. So, you know, when I was saying to you that thing about Jill Bolt Taylor and the stroke affecting one hemisphere of the brain, you know, we understand that the right side of our body affects the left hemisphere of the brain and vice versa. And so, like, obviously we're not completely symmetrical, and yes, we do have a dominance in terms of writing and so on, but can you see why asana is actually helpful for us to be able to experience that oneness? Because it helps us to release how there can be tightness too much on one side, which therefore is going to be affecting one side of the brain more. So anyway, release that when you're ready. Now, I just want to show you there's options to this next thing. We want to just open through the front of the chest. So you could just pop your blanket here and then lay back like that. Maybe, you know, maybe just have your legs there. That'll probably be the least chest opening. Or you could put your bottom onto and then it's going to depend like how, like whether you have like a capital T or a small T. T for Tamara. Okay, we're going to come back and maybe you'll see this will be a little bit more chest opening and also just like a little bit of an inversion. But maybe you don't like that option, so you don't have to go so far back. So just, you could maybe go a long way back and then come forwards a bit if you want. Just let's kind of play with it, because obviously this is your practice. Yeah, you can try having your feet together, your knees out. You might like to try sliding your bottom further back. Maybe you'd like to have a blanket under your head, under your neck. You want to make sure like you feel quite supported, comfy. You could have your arms down or your arms overhead. You could hold on to your opposite elbow. You could let your arms drape to the sides. I also feel like it's nice to just experiment with all of the different ways and then just find what feels the loveliest. Where we can start to feel that release through the front of the chest. And you may notice that that kind of really facilitates your in-breath. And the yogis recognize that inspiration actually comes into us, into our bodies. Can you let your gaze go down to the center of the chest again? And you may you may find that you've got to like, it's like driving a car, you've got to like keep steering. You may need to keep steering your gaze down to the center of the chest. That's okay. It just brings a beautiful calming, soothing. Can you imagine like you're looking down into the center of the chest and seeing a star? Imagine you could see a little star there, a star that you can imagine it made of two overlapping triangles, and it's blue, it's powdery blue. Can you imagine a powdery blue star? Imagine you're looking at that in the center of the chest. And that is embedded in the background of green. So you may want to stay like this for longer. So please do if you'd like to. Just it will, if you'd like, we're going to transition from this slowly. So if you've got your head kind of back more, just start to like transition, like wriggling your bottom down a bit. So you're gradually coming lower, just little by little, until eventually you have your bottom down onto the ground, and just maybe don't put it right next to the bolster because you don't want to overarch your back too much. Maybe bring it like a bit away from the bolster, and then we'll rest here. Then you could have your knees drop together with your feet wide, or perhaps you like having the feet together and your knees out. Up to you. I find that often the Baddha Konasana, because it's relating to Svadhisthana chakra, feels very nice with chest opening often, because like if you think of the chakras in terms of like the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, right? In terms of numbers, you know, the second chakra and the fourth chakra are both even numbers, and the first and the third and the fifth, etc., are odd numbers. And this concept is that the even number chakras are, you could think of it as like as relating to anima and animus, like as in terms of like masculine and feminine energy. And so there's like this feminine softness, like the yearning to release and surrender. So it's like you can just let yourself really just soften here, like feel how you can soften into your hands. Feel how your breath has become really soft, gentle, quiet, delicate. And so this may feel lovely for you to just stay in. If you would like to sit up to meditate, then take your time. Just if you would like to, we'll roll over to your side. And we'll gradually come up to sit to meditate in a comfortable position for you. So you maybe rather stay as you are, but it will begin just with your fingers all touching together. We're just going to bring them under your armpits and then just let your eyes close. If you need to adjust, like sit onto a bolster or a blanket or anything, take your time, just get yourself like in the right position. I think this is one of the gifts of the heart chakra is feeling. Feeling, is this right? Not what someone else is telling us to do. I think you're allowing permission. And so this practice is called Padadhyasana. It's relating, Pada means pillars, like balancing the pillars. So can you feel how just as your breath is gentle and slow, you can kind of notice an expansion with the in-breath and a contraction with the out-breath underneath your hands. As I said, your hands are part of the heart chakra, part of the body. Filled with sensory receptors, very easy to feel with the hands. Feel with your hands the movement underneath. Just sense, are both sides even? Does it feel really equal? It may, so just leave your hands as they are if it does. If it feels as though one side is more dominant than the other, which is quite common, if it does, just feel which hand is underneath. And just move just the underneath arm out and then cross it over on top. And what that does is it just applies a different pressure. Basically, we're bringing a pressure to where there's a collection of nerves between the ribs that actually affects the breath flow through the nostrils. And so we bring equilibrium. So it's not as though the right nostril feels more dominant than the left, or the left nostril feels more dominant than the right, but we start to feel a oneness of the breath, like an equilibrium between the sides. So it's like a sense of oneness instead of relativity. And perhaps you want to just remain there with the hands like that, or if you start to feel like it's become equal, then just let your hands rest down into Uddiyana Mudra with your thumb and first fingers touching. We're going to visualize now a star made of two overlapping triangles, but let's imagine it as your whole body. So can you imagine from one shoulder to the other, and then down to the pelvic floor, from your right shoulder down to the pelvic floor, from your left shoulder down to the pelvic floor. Can you imagine that's one triangle, making a point down into the ground? Can you imagine that triangle? Feel it with your body. And now imagine the overlapping triangle that's pointing upwards, going across the pelvis. It's the base of that triangle. Can you imagine that? and then on one side it's pointing up on a diagonal to the top of the skull, and then on the other side pointing up on a diagonal to the top of the skull. Can you picture this powdery blue star made of those two triangles? One base is across the collarbones, across the shoulder blades, at the top down, pointing down to the pelvic floor. Feel that grounding energy of the ground, of the earth. You are safe. Feel the base of the triangle that's pointing upwards across the pelvis from one side to the other. And the point at the top of the skull where the fontanelle was when you're a little baby. You can just receive that inspiration, that insightful and intuitive adjustment that maybe your body naturally makes to have this sense of yourself. This beautiful star, powdery blue star. Let your awareness rest inwards from your forehead into ajna. Just rest into that radiance behind the forehead, jyoti. When you're ready, we'll come to lay down for Shavasana, unless you'd rather keep sitting to meditate. So please feel free to keep meditating if you'd rather. Otherwise, we'll just lay into whatever position is comfortable for you now for Shavasana. You might like to have a bolster under your legs and perhaps a blanket under your head or one on top of you, or lay down with no props, whatever you feel like. This energy that is oneness is this pure love. This teaching is that you are pure love. Imagine this beautiful soft green mist spreading through your entire body and beyond your body, all around you, this gentle, fresh, soft green color. And as you rest here, imagine your body as the powdery blue star across the pelvis, the base, the star that points up to the crown of the head, across the shoulders, base of the triangle that points down to the pelvic floor. Your gaze rests down to the heart center. So you might like to keep resting. Please do if you wish. If you do feel like sealing our practice together, then just take some little movements with your toes and thumbs over your fingertips. Maybe take a while to stretch your arms overhead if you'd like to. You can stretch one side longer and then the other side longer, although you may just want to keep resting. Sometimes when we go into this beautiful, it's like a blissful state, that's what your soul is, bliss. You may want to stay there for longer, so please do if you'd like. Just if you feel like coming up, then take as long as you like. Just gradually come together to seal our practice with 3 Oms, or just let the Oms wash over you if you prefer. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.